Hey, this is Marshall over at the Motoshop. Just want to do a quick video on how to properly set up your steering and forks on your motorcycle. We're starting this video with the steering stem loose just to make sure we start with everything perfectly aligned. Gonna grab my first fork and an impact just to make it a little bit easier. And we're gonna slide it up into the triple clamps. Just set it wherever you prefer to set it, but we're gonna start it here on the second line on this WP fork, and then just tighten the bottom triple clamps, not all the way. Then I'm going to grab my second fork here, put it in the other side. Same thing, setting it to the same height on that top triple clamp. Again, that changes from machine to machine and also based on your preference. Now, with the top triple clamp loose, I'm going to tighten the steering stem. And there is a torque spec on this, but a lot of times I just go off a feel. You don't want it too tight, but also not too loose. So I get that to where I like it. And then you're gonna wanna tighten up that top pinch bolt. Now what I'm gonna do is take the axle and I'm gonna slide it through the fork lugs and make sure that it basically floats through there. There's no resistance. It was really important, and a lot of people overlook this step. So I actually have a little bit of resistance on my axle, so I'm going to loosen up one of the forks and just move it slightly just to see if I can get that axle to be buttery smooth through there. I like where it's at now. Now I'm just going to go through and lightly tighten everything down. Though I am using an impact, I am not using it to full force here. I'm just lightly tightening things down. Double checking, making sure the axle looks good there. Now I'm going to grab a torque wrench and we're going to torque the bottom triple clamp here. Make sure to check the torque specs on that. It's important to set them to the right torque specs, because if you over tighten your forks, they definitely will perform really poorly, and then you can also wear out your forks pretty quickly. Also, a quick note on tightening pattern. I just like to go back and forth until I get the right torque on each pinch bolt, and that seems to work fine. Keep in mind here too that usually the top triple clamps and the bottom triple clamps have different torque specs. So make sure you're double checking that. Now that the forks and the steering stem are all tightened down, I'm just gonna start getting it ready to put the front wheel back on. So I'm just putting the fork protector back on here. I'm going to grab the axle here. Make sure you put a light amount of grease on this axle. You definitely want some grease, but I see a lot of people way over grease it. So just a light amount of grease. Now we're going to get the front wheel back in here. This part can be kind of tricky, just getting the axle through and the fork lugs to line up. Also, if your brake caliper's on at this point, it can kind of be hard to get the rotor into the pads. That's why I like to leave it kind of hang in for this step. Now I'm going to grab the brake caliper bolts and I'm going to put a little blue Loctite on there. Generally, you want to put some Loctite on there. Check your manual just to make sure. Now I'm going to grab the axle nut. I'll thread that back in here. Now you want to torque everything down to the proper specs. We're going to torque our brake caliper here. Again, very important to torque this to the proper specs. Don't want that coming undone, and also don't want to break a bolt either. And now for this step, in order to torque the axle, you want to tighten down the pinch bolts on the opposing fork lug. So I just use the impact to kind of make it a little quicker there. And then I'm grabbing my socket here for the axle nut. And so now I'm going to torque this down. Make sure that this side, the pinch bolts, are not tight. And now what we're going to do is we're going to loosen up those pinch bolts that we tightened earlier. So now the pinch bolts on both sides, on both fork lugs, are loose. And this step here is kind of a little bonus step that a lot of people don't really do. It is important in this process though. Basically what I'm going to do here is lower the bike down, or you can take it off the stand if you don't have a stand like this scissor one. And I'm basically going to compress the forks a few times just to get everything to settle in. Don't worry, I'm not doing anything inappropriate to this bike here. Now it's time to kind of do the final steps here. We're going to go ahead and torque down these pinch bolts on both the fork lugs. Make sure to refer to your manual for that torque spec on these. And that's pretty much it here. Forks are aligned, the steering's aligned, axle's perfect through there, everything's back on and torqued. And that's how you properly align your forks and your steering on your motorcycle.